through hard work, which he called chasing after the wind. He's not saying there's anything wrong with hard work. There's nothing wrong with hard labor. What he's talking about is a very specific kind of hard labor. Labor where you work and it's meaningless. It's chasing after the wind. And if you take all of this in context, what God was showing me, what he is showing Solomon, is that the work that we're given, all of those situations, all of those things that we're put in, God is trying to show us the truth of our hearts. We can be like fools and decide, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not going to listen. I'm just going to keep working. I'm going to ignore what God is trying to tell me about my heart. I'm going to ignore what this situation is revealing to me about my heart. I'm going to ignore that, and I'm going to keep doing things the way I've always done them. That's the folding of the hands. That's the folding of the arms. That's the attitude that says, I refuse to grow. And that's what Solomon calls that person a fool. Because you're wasting your time. You're chasing after the wind. And we all know people that live that way. They live every day and they're faced with situations that make them angry and upset. And they never bother to consider what's going on in their own hearts that is making that situation so much more difficult. He's not suggesting that things aren't difficult. They are. But what he's telling us is how those things affect how we feel about ourselves and our quality of life is directly related to what's going on in our hearts. And he's trying to bring us to that point. And what God was telling me was, as I'm asking him, show me my heart, God was answering, every day, I'm trying to show you your heart. Every situation, every challenge, every difficulty, I'm trying to show you your heart. Not to humiliate you, not to degrade you, not to make you feel less than, but so that when you have an honest view and an accurate view of your heart and your life, and you know where you are, then you can more accurately follow Jesus. So God is saying in every situation, when you feel angry, when you feel envious, when you feel jealousy, when you feel bitterness, whatever it is, God is trying to get your attention. He's trying to get you to see and ask that question, what lie have you believed about yourself that's making this so difficult for you? What lie have you believed about God that's making this so difficult for you? Because if we believe that we are fatally flawed, that we are living condemned, that we are just one sin away from eternal condemnation, if we're living that way, there's some lie that we have believed about God. There's some lie that we believed about ourselves. If you think about the things that cause us anger, the things that we get upset about, what within our own heart is being projected onto that situation that brings out that kind of reaction? I got to admit, this week I read about one of the leaders of Antifa, and he was arrested. And they talked about how when he was arrested, he was crying like a little baby, and he was in the fetal position as they were taking him off. Because this has been a young man who has lived pretty much spoiled his entire life, and mom and dad have always taken care of him and always bailed him out. And so when the handcuffs got slapped on him, and he realized there was nobody there to bail him out, he began to cry, and he began to be upset. And there was part of me that rejoiced. And I had to take a step back and say, wait a minute. Why does that make me happy? Yes, the young man is spoiled, and yes, this is a difficult situation for him, but why would that cause me to rejoice? What was going on in my own heart? What part of me did I despise that when I looked at that young man, it brought me joy to see him being humiliated like that? I don't wish that on anybody. Even if people deserve it, none of us should. But what was going on? Perhaps there was a part of me that I despised. Perhaps there was a part of me which I feel like wasn't adequate enough for a previous situation, wasn't strong enough to have stopped it. Maybe there's a lie there that I believed about myself or about God, which made me rejoice when that young man had difficulty. And I don't know what it is for any of you. I don't know what kind of battles you're fighting every single week. But I do know from a perspective of somebody who has spent decades chasing the wind, I think we've wasted enough time doing that. I think we've wasted enough time working meaninglessly, accomplishing a lot of things, and never connecting the dots of what God was trying to show us through every failure, through every success. So this week, what I want you to do, what I would encourage you to do, is to start off every day with that honest prayer, Lord, here's my heart. Show me what is true. Say that over and over again, Lord, here's my heart. Show me what's true. Even if it's painful, even if I don't want to admit it, show me the condition of my heart. Because I want to live the way you created me to live. I want to not just survive, I want to thrive. I want to have that abundant life. I want to live the way I was created to live. Lord, show me my heart. Let's put down the arms and the fist of rebellion and stop pretending like we have all the answers and we know everything. I think all of us can be honest with ourselves and recognize that we don't. This was the problem that Jesus ran into with the Pharisees in John chapter 9. You remember that story? He healed the blind man. And then at the end of that chapter, when the blind man recognizes it was Jesus who healed him, he worships Jesus. And Jesus says to him, for this reason I have come into the world, so that those who are blind may have their sight. And the Pharisees, in their arrogance, said, what, are we blind too? And Jesus said, if you were blind, I could give you your sight. But since you tell me that you can see, your sin remains. The point Jesus was saying is, I have the power to heal your heart. I have the power to restore you to spiritual sanity. I have the power to bring you to the life you were created to live. But if you tell me you do not have any problems, if you tell me that where I'm pointing this out to you, that there's not really a problem there, there is nothing I can do for you. All of my power would be meaningless to you. I think we've all had enough time living that way. I think we've all had enough time chasing after the wind. Maybe it's time for us to open our hearts, open our minds to God, and look at what we're dealing with. Look at how we're responding to the world around us and start to ask God to show us our heart. Start to ask God to open our minds to how we're responding and what's going on in our own hearts so that we can follow Jesus more closely, so that we can live the life we were all created to live. The lesson's yours.